Hey everyone, welcome back to CT Fulcrum. Before I get underway, be sure to like, comment and subscribe if you like my content and want to get some more juicy Star Wars content into your system. Today's video is going to be surrounding my part 2 of ranking every single Star Wars TV show and movie up to date. Obviously I've already done part 1, I'll leave the link above. And before I get into this video, I'll quickly go over my list which I have so far. So at 17 I have The Last Jedi, at 16 I had The Rise of Skywalker, 15 The Bad Batch, 14 Star Wars Visions, 13 The Book of Boba Fett, 12 The Phantom Menace, and 11 The Force Awakens. If you want to see my reasoning behind that, and if you think I'm a madman, go check out my first video. As I said again, the link is above and it's also in the description. Just to reiterate that there are a couple of shows and series that I did not include, just for the fact that either I haven't seen them or I don't think they belong on this list. So Solo, I still haven't seen that really, and I don't know if I will. I'm not fully interested in it, but maybe eventually I'll see it. 2003 Clone Wars, which I have seen, but I don't think it fully belongs on this list. Star Wars Resistance, I saw a little bit and didn't want to watch any more. It'd probably be last if it was on the list. And I haven't included any Lego and holiday specials for obvious reasons. So in this video, I'll be ranking number 6 to number 10. And in the final one, I'll be ranking number 1 to number 5. So continuing with the list, I am at number 10. At number 10, I have Obi-Wan Kenobi. This one was a difficult placement for me. Going into this show, I had very high hopes, as any prequel fan would, and I have to say for the most part, I was let down. If I'm being honest, Obi-Wan Kenobi began to worry me before it even started. We were originally going to get a trilogy, then a solo film, then finally switched to a TV show. I would have thought one of the biggest characters of your brand would have deserved at least one movie with the movie budget, but I guess not. Now onto the series itself. Let me go through the positives first. Ewan McGregor returning as Obi-Wan was a very smooth transition back. He expressed the emotion needed in each scene very well, and it was a joy to see him on the screen again. He also combined his prequel performance with that of Alec Guinness, trying to find a good middle ground, as you could tell from his voice, which was really good work from him again. Hayden Christensen was very good in the little parts that he showed up and had to use dialogue, and it definitely helped more to see the transition between Anakin to Vader as more believable. The Princess Leia actress did a wonderful portrayal of little Leia. She is exactly how I envisioned Leia would be at her age. Seeing Qui-Gon return, another huge positive, but I'm definitely clutching at straws now, so on to the negatives. The lazy plot. Before I go on, I know Star Wars has had its fair share of bad writing in the past, but bad writing and blatantly lazy writing are two different issues altogether. Very basic screenwriting elements were done so poorly. A 6-episode series called Obi-Wan Kenobi felt like half the series was devoted towards Reva and Leia. Although I loved little Leia, was it really necessary to have her story arc last over so many episodes? It felt like it was taking away from the crux of what was marketed, Vader vs Obi-Wan. Next, the cinematography was an absolute shit show. Sorry for my words. Yeah, I'm mainly talking about the stupid overuse of shaky cam. Why on earth did they hire a drunken cameraman onto the set? It makes no sense to me. The man couldn't hold the camera still to save his life. It cheapened the whole feel of scenes which should have felt richer, such as the fight scenes as well as a lot of Vader scenes. The shaky cam made it feel more like a fan film in its production. Also, the lighting was quite poor in certain moments too. Too much artificial light in certain sections, then the dim, dark nature of both the fight scenes. The scenes themselves weren't shot in great locations either, which added to the fan film feel. It seemed like some abandoned factory in the first fight, and in the final fight the landscape was extremely dull, filled with CGI rocks. The music was also pretty poor. I genuinely don't understand why they didn't use more prequel or original trilogy music. They didn't need a new score. They could have even mixed up the old songs like Samuel Kim does on his YouTube channel. That definitely would have developed the impactfulness of scenes, especially the ones with Vader. You're probably wondering, with all these negatives, why is it not lower on my list? Honestly, it's because I have a soft spot for Obi-Wan and Anakin, and in particular Hayden and Ewan, which you'll see later on from my rankings of the last two prequels. Even though I disliked a lot of what I saw, seeing them both again was very nice. Just an absolute shame with all the missed opportunities and forced plot points to push political agendas. Had this series fixed a few writing elements, had better cinematography, and placed more appropriate music in scenes, this could have been so much higher on my list. Before I move on, I'd like to mention that in due course, I'd like to make a video on how I'd rate the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. At number 9, we have the OG Star Wars, or as it's called now, Star Wars A New Hope. The first time I watched this was in school, and I was entranced by Darth Vader ever since I saw him on the screen. The movie was what started this brilliant franchise, and one of the major pillars of why it's so popular now. The dynamic between the three main protagonists in Luke, Leia and Han was brilliantly displayed on screen. You could feel the tension between them to begin with, but a true friendship that had begun forming. I loved Alec Guinness's portrayal of Obi-Wan. Somehow he elicits emotions out of the audience from the prequels, even though at his time there were no prequels. It's genuinely amazing. The whole idea of the Death Star was very original at that stage, until it was overused about 60 times. I loved the whole mystic nature surrounding the Force, the Jedi, and Darth Vader. I think a lot of people forget how good the comedy is in it too. A very good movie. I really only have one gripe with it, and it's not even really a gripe, but it is a bit slow in sections, and the whole idea of the Death Star having that fatal weakness in its structure was strange at the time. Of course, being beautifully rectified by Rogue One years later. All in all, a great start to the hero's journey for Luke Skywalker, which, as we know, only got better from here. At number 8, I have The Attack of the Clones. Yes, I'm sure you're thinking, why on earth is this so high? As I mentioned before, I am a prequel generation Star Wars fan. It's what I grew up with. And honestly, I think this movie gets an unsolicited amount of hate. I will give it to you that the romance is horrid, extremely forced, and unbelievable. Some of the scenes over-rely on CGI, but come on, it's not as bad as people say. It's got a surprising amount of action, really brings the war in Star Wars. We of course got the first Battle of Geonosis, we were introduced to the clone armies, we got Anakin and Obi-Wan vs Dooku, then Yoda vs Dooku. The first time we ever got to see Yoda bring out his lightsaber and fight. Christopher Lee played a brilliant Count Dooku and really expressed the fact that Dooku was more of a grey Jedi than a Sith. He wasn't pure evil like Palpatine. Anakin's story in Fall had some further developments here, with his mother passing away and his secret marriage to Padme. We were introduced to Kamino and the cloning facilities, which is an idea still being used today throughout Star Wars. If you can look past the romance scenes, it's honestly a fun watch, a movie I've rewatched plenty of times. The rest of the list pertains to those titles that I absolutely adore. There are only a few minor faults in them, but very few, so I want to stress that I love all the next ones. Coming in at number 7, we have Return of the Jedi. This movie probably has one of my favourite dialogue scenes in the whole Star Wars franchise, that being between Vader, Palpatine and Luke. The Luke, Han and Leia dynamic is only further bettered in this movie, giving us a true family impression between these friends. We got Luke's green lightsaber, which is still used today to hype new fans. Seeing Luke enter Jabba's palace and calmly knocking out 2 Gamorreans gave us a new aura surrounding Luke, a new presence, one close to that of a Jedi Master. He seemed very much in tune with his abilities and powers, clearly training between episode 5 and 6 following his defeat to Vader on Bespin. The whole Jabba's spaceship montage was honestly a fun set piece. I love the idea of Leia playing a fake bounty hunter to get Han back. Then as a team they get out of there in one piece. The Battle of Endor was well played out, and I didn't mind the Ewoks being used as allies by the rebels. All of Vader's and Luke's dialogue scenes together were exceptionally good. You could feel Vader's doubt and his hidden belief and love for his son as the movie goes on. Also seeing Luke struggle with the light and dark side while fighting Vader mirrors the struggles of Anakin, but where Anakin fell, Luke rose, to be better than his father, to be the hero his father needed. Then, of course, Anakin's whole sacrifice at the end. I think a lot of people ask, why did Palpatine not sense Vader's betrayal? And I believe it's because his act was one formed purely out of love for his son, where Palpatine would have only sensed him if it was out of pure betrayal for Palpatine. A very sad end, especially if you've seen the prequels first. All the tragedies he'd been through, practically being a slave his whole life until finally being freed by his son before his passing. He truly did end up bringing balance, with Luke acting as a catalyst for his journey. A solid end to a magnificent original trilogy, a large part of what made Star Wars what it is today. Rounding out this video and coming in at number 6 is The Mandalorian. This show came at a rough time for Star Wars. The fandom was in disarray. The content was nowhere near the level it should have been, and a lot of love had been lost for the franchise. Going into The Mandalorian, not many people knew much about it, just that it starred a guy who had Boba Fett looking armor painted silver. It not only brought back the love from a lot of fans, but it brought back creativity and excitement for Star Wars again. Where the sequel trilogy left many disappointed, The Mandalorian offered something new and exciting. Season 1 was extremely well executed, with Easter eggs here and there to the Skywalker saga as well as the animated shows. Something brilliant about The Mandalorian is that he was able to show so much emotion for a character who has a mask on all the time. Just his little nuances with the helmet and the brilliant camera work was enough for the audience to understand what he was feeling at that point. The bond between him and Grogu was also magnificently done. You truly believed that they were like a father and son. And not just that, the side characters were also quite interesting and multifaceted as well. Season 1 for me did have a couple of hit and miss episodes, but in general, you could tell it was the base for something special. Then we got Season 2, which was a dream come true for so many fans, particularly fans of the animated Star Wars shows. My god, this season had everything: a Krayt Dragon, Bo-Katan, Ahsoka Tano, Boba Fett, and of course Luke Skywalker. The Krayt Dragon episode was more like a movie than from a TV show. The cinematography and CGI were executed to perfection, and the budget was what it should have been for KENOBI. The introduction of beloved Clone Wars characters into live action was done very well. Bo-Katan was perfect, and while Ahsoka was a bit strange to start off, it grew on me as the episode went along, and now I love her too. Bo-Katan and Ahsoka are perfect examples and models of what strong female lead characters should be, who don't need to demean men around them to be a strong character. Something that has definitely been missed with a lot of Hollywood projects nowadays. We don't need to think they're a badass character because they're a woman. We should think they're a badass character because they're a badass character, and women traits can add to that, but should not be the sole suitor. That fight between Ahsoka and the Magistrate was mesmerizing. The sound effects of the lightsaber on the Beskar spear, they just knew what they were doing. And again, I come back to KENOBI. There was no stupid shaky cam during any one of these pivotal fight scenes. The still panned camera angles and shots were used much more, as they evoke a sense of importance and professionalism. Seeing Boba Fett return was another tick in the box for comic fans, a character we got very little of but wanted so much more. Finally, we have the best part of the series, probably one of the best moments if not the best moment in Disney era Star Wars, the return of Luke Skywalker. Again, and I know I keep saying it, but the music by Ludwig, the camera angles, the general cinematography, the mirroring of the hallway scene with that of Vader's in Rogue One, the slight gestures towards it being Luke as we go on, until it's all but confirmed by the green lightsaber. Although I will mention that I think a lot of people knew it was Luke as soon as they heard one X-Wing. The Luke in the sequel trilogy hurt a lot of fans, seeing the way his character had gone from a true hero who had already had his hero arc to a depressed old mess. But just seeing Luke again in his prime, some might say the true Luke, brought out tears in a lot of fans, including myself. Then to make it even better, we get R2-D2 pop out for a hello, which brought out more tears, then finally a tragic goodbye from Grogu to Mando. This episode brought out emotions from me towards Star Wars, which I hadn't felt in a long time, and most likely after Season 3 arrives, this show will go higher on my list as it seems to be only getting better with time. So that rounds out my list from numbers 6 to 10. Let me know in the comments below what your ranking is for all Star Wars movies and TV shows below, and give me a reasoning behind it as well, as I've done in this video. If you want to see my rankings 11 to 17, check out my other video which I've left in the description below, and keep a lookout for my final ranking video which will go through my top 5. There might be a few surprises there. I'm sure you already know what's in the top 5, but the order of it might surprise you a bit. And until next time, the Force will be with you. Always.